Control your mind, control your mouth, and control your money. Because if you don't, life will do it for you. Let me be real with you today. Most people are not losing because they are untalented. They are losing because they are undisciplined. They wake up every day letting their thoughts run wild, their mouths run loose, and their money run away. And then they wonder why their life feels out of control. Success is not mysterious. It's managed. And the first thing you must manage is you. It starts with the mind. Before anything changes on the outside, something has to change on the inside. Some of you are fighting battles nobody can see. You smile on the outside, but your mind is noisy. Doubt talks to you. Fear talks to you. Fear talks to you. Your past talks to you. And if you're not careful, those voices will start making decisions for you. You cannot let every thought sit at the table. Just because you think it doesn't mean it's true. Just because you feel it doesn't mean you have to follow it. Champions don't have fewer negative thoughts. They just don't obey them. You've got to train your mind the same way you train your body. Repetition, consistency, discipline. If you wake up every day feeding your mind excuses, your life will reflect excuses. If you wake up every day feeding your mind vision, your life will start moving toward vision. Your mind believes what you tell it most often. So what are you telling yourself when nobody is around? Are you reminding yourself of your pain, or are you reminding yourself of your purpose? And listen to me closely. Your environment matters. If you keep surrounding yourself with negativity, gossip, and comfort, don't expect a focused mind. You can't think like a winner while living like a victim. Control your inputs if you want to control your outputs. What you watch, what you listen to, what you tolerate, it all programs your thinking. A disciplined mind doesn't happen by accident. It's built on purpose. Now let's talk about the mouth. Because some of you are destroying with words what you're trying to build with effort. You pray for growth, but speak fear. You ask for abundance, but complain daily. You say you want better, but your language keeps you small. Life is listening. Your mind is listening. Your spirit is listening. And every time you speak doubt, you reinforce it. Your mouth has power, not motivational power, directional power. Words don't just describe reality. They help shape it. When you keep saying, I can't, your brain stops trying. When you keep saying, I'm tired, your body agrees. When you keep saying it's too hard, you give yourself permission to quit. Control your mouth, because every word is a vote for the future you're building. And let me say this. Everybody doesn't deserve access to your thoughts or your dreams. Some people talk too much and move too little. You don't need to announce your next level to people who are comfortable where they are. Protect your vision. Move in silence when necessary. There's a time to speak and a time to execute. Talking feels productive, but discipline changes lives. Now let's deal with money, because this is where a lot of people get uncomfortable, but it's also where a lot of people stay stuck. Money is not evil. Money is a mirror. It exposes habits, priorities, and discipline. If you don't control money, money will control you. If you don't tell your money where to go, it will disappear and leave you confused. You don't need more money. You need more control. It's not always the big mistakes, the small, daily, undisciplined decisions. Spending to feel better. Buying to impress people don't care. Avoiding planning because it feels restrictive. Discipline feels hard in the moment, but regret is harder long term. Every dollar is a decision. Every decision is a reflection of values. You say you want freedom, but freedom requires structure. You say you want options, but options come from preparation. Control your money by respecting it. Save with intention. Invest in growth. Delay gratification. Understand this. Broke habits don't disappear with bigger income. If you don't manage little, you won't manage much. Here's the truth most people miss. Your mind, your mouth, and your money must be aligned. You can't think success, talk fear, and spend recklessly and expect progress. Alignment is power. When your thoughts believe it, your words declare it, and your money supports it, momentum becomes unstoppable. That's when life starts responding differently. Discipline is not punishment. Discipline is self-respect. It's saying that my future matters more than my comfort. It's waking up when you don't feel like it. It's saying no when it's easier to say yes. Choosing long-term results over short-term pleasure. And let me tell you something. Motivation will get you started, but discipline will keep you going when motivation leaves. Nobody is coming to save you. Nobody is coming to think for you, speak for you, or manage your money for you. This is your responsibility. And the moment you accept that, power returns to your hands. You don't need to control everything. Just control yourself. So I challenge you today. Master your thoughts because they become your actions. Guard your words because they become your direction. Respect your money because it becomes your options. Control your mind, your mouth, and your money. And watch your life rise to a level you once thought was impossible. Your breakthrough isn't missing. Your discipline is. And when discipline shows up, everything changes. Before anything in your life changes on the outside, something has to change on the inside. And that place is your mind. The mind is not just where thoughts live. It's where decisions are born. Every action you take today started as a thought yesterday. Every habit you repeat began as a belief you accepted. And every limit you feel right now is connected to something you've told yourself long enough that it started to feel true. That's why the first battlefield is not your job, not your finances, not your relationships. It's your thinking. It's your thinking. Most people don't realize they are at war because the enemy doesn't look like an enemy. It sounds like your own voice. It shows up as comfort. It disguises itself as logic. It whispers, "We're tired. You've done enough, or you can start tomorrow." And that's just who you are. And because it sounds familiar, because it sounds reasonable, you don't fight it. You agree with it. But the moment you agree with a negative thought, you give it authority. And once it has authority, it starts making decisions for you. You don't need permission to think bigger, but you do need discipline to think better. Your mind will naturally drift toward fear, doubt, and past experiences if you don't train it otherwise. Left unmanaged, the mind doesn't aim for growth, it aims for safety. It wants what's familiar, even if what's familiar is painful. That's why some people stay stuck in the same cycles for years. Not because they lack opportunity, but because their mind keeps pulling them back to what it knows. Your past is powerful, but it doesn't get to be permanent unless you allow it. Too many people replay old failures so often that their mind mistakes memory for identity. You failed once, so now you believe you're a failure. You struggled before, so now you assume struggle's your destiny. But a disciplined mind understands this truth. What happened to you is not the same as who you are. Experiences shape you, but they do not own you unless you surrender control. The problem isn't that negative thoughts show up. Everyone has them. The difference between average and exceptional is not the presence of negative thoughts. It's the response to them. Champions don't panic when doubt appears. They don't get emotional every time fear speaks. They acknowledge it, question it, and replace it. They understand that not every thought deserves attention, and definitely not every thought deserves obedience. Your mind needs leadership. If you don't lead it, it will follow whatever is loudest. That might be your emotions. That might be your environment. That might be other people's opinions. And if you let your emotions run your mind, you'll only work when you feel like it. You'll only try when confidence is high. You'll quit the moment discomfort shows up. Discipline means deciding ahead of time who's in charge and choosing purpose over feelings. Repetition is what gives thoughts power. The mind believes what it hears most often. If you repeat fear long enough, it will feel like wisdom. If you repeat excuses long enough, they'll feel justified. That's why self-talk matters more than motivation. Motivation is temporary. Self-talk is constant. What you say to yourself when nobody is listening is shaping what you do when everyone is watching. A disciplined mind doesn't wait for confidence to act. It acts and confidence follows. Too many people are wait. Ready is a feel ready. Ready is a feeling. Discipline is a decision. Growth begins the moment you decide that how you feel will no longer control what you do. Your mind must be trained to move forward, even when comfort is gone. And let's be honest, your environment is feeding your thinking every single day. What you watch, what you listen to, who you spend time with, what you tolerate, none of it is neutral. Everything is either strengthening your discipline or weakening it. You cannot consistently think at a high level while surrounding yourself with low-level conversations. Gossip rewires your brain to focus on drama. Complaining programs your mind to look for problems instead of solutions. Comfort conditions your mind to avoid pressure. If you want a stronger mind, you must be intentional about your inputs. You can't binge negativity and expect clarity. You can't consume chaos and expect peace. You can't surround yourself with people who settle and expect yourself to soar. A disciplined mind protects its focus like a treasure. Because focus is expensive, you lose it fast and earn it slowly. Your mind also needs structure. Chaos in your thinking often comes from chaos in your routines. When you wake up without purpose, your mind wanders. When you don't plan your day, your thoughts chase distractions. Structure doesn't limit freedom, it creates it. The more disciplined your systems are, the less emotional energy you waste deciding what to do next. Decision fatigue is real, and an undisciplined mind gets tired faster because it's constantly reacting instead of leading. Pain is another test of mental control. When pressure hits, your mind will try to escape. It will search for relief instead of growth. It would ask, how can I make this stop? Instead of what can this teach me? But pain handled correctly becomes power. A disciplined mind doesn't romanticize pain, but it doesn't run from it either. It understands that discomfort is often the doorway to the next level. The mind also struggles with delayed results. We live in a world of instant gratification, but growth rarely works that way. When effort doesn't immediately pay off, the undisciplined mind starts doubting the process. It questions the path. It looks for shortcuts. Discipline means trusting what you're building even when evidence hasn't shown up yet. Faith is not blind optimism. It's disciplined belief under pressure. You must also learn to rest your mind without shutting it down. Burnout is often mistaken for lack of discipline, but sometimes it's poor mental recovery. A strong mind knows when to push and when to pause. Rest is not quitting. Rest is maintenance. The problem is not rest. The problem is escape disguised as rest. Scrolling for hours, numbing yourself with distractions, avoiding reflection. That's not recovery, that's avoidance. A disciplined mind rests with intention and returns with focus. Your identity plays a huge role in mental control. You will always act in alignment with who you believe you are. If you see yourself as inconsistent, you justify inconsistency. If you see yourself as disciplined, you'll correct yourself faster when you slip. Identity is not built in one moment, it's built through repeated decision. Every time you do what's hard instead of what's easy, you reinforce a stronger self-image. Understand this clearly. The mind doesn't change overnight, but it does change daily. Small adjustments repeated consistently rewire your thinking. One disciplined thought today is not impressive. One disciplined thought every day becomes transformation. Don't underestimate the power of gradual change. Most breakthroughs look boring while they're happening. You don't control the first thought that enters your mind, but you absolutely control the second one. You can't stop a bird from flying over your head, but you can stop it from building a nest. The moment you realize a thought is pulling you away from your purpose, that's your cue to intervene. Awareness is power. Correction is growth. When you finally take control of your mind, something shifts. You stop reacting so quickly. You stop quitting so easily. You stop letting temporary emotions make permanent decisions. You become calmer under pressure and clearer under stress. Not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. The first battlefield is the mind because every other battle depends on it. If your mind is undisciplined, success will feel heavy. If your mind is focused, challenges become manageable. Control your mind. Now you take back ownership of your life. Lose control of it, and you'll spend years wondering why you're busy but not progressing. The war is daily, the work is intentional, and the reward is freedom. What you think repeatedly, you become eventually. This is not a motivational quote meant to make you feel good for a moment. It is a law that governs behavior, character, and outcomes. Your life today is not an accident. It is the result of patterns of thought that have been rehearsed so often that they turned into beliefs, and beliefs that have been practiced so long that they turned into habits. You are living in yesterday's thinking, and tomorrow you will live in what you are thinking today. The mind is always rehearsing something. Even when you are silent, your thoughts are speaking. They are narrating your abilities, predicting your future, and interpreting your experiences. And here's the danger. The mind does not judge thoughts as true or false. It judges them as familiar or unfamiliar. The thoughts you repeat most often become familiar, and familiarity feels like truth. That's how limitation disguises itself as reality. Most people don't wake up and decide to think small. It happens gradually. One disappointment becomes a story. One failure becomes a label. One bad season becomes an identity. And before you realize it, you are no longer thinking about what happened. You are thinking from it. Your mind starts filtering every opportunity through past pain. You don't ask, well, what's possible? You ask, well, what if it goes wrong again? Repetition has done its work. The brain is a powerful pattern recognition machine. It looks for consistency. If you consistently think thoughts of fear, your brain will begin scanning the environment for evidence to support fear. If you consistently think thoughts of lack, your brain will notice obstacles more than opportunities. Not because the world changed, but because your focus did. Repeated thoughts create selective attention, and selective attention shapes your experience of reality. This is why two people can be in the same situation and live completely different lives. One sees a challenge, the other sees challenge. The other sees confirmation that they were never meant to succeed. One sees pressure as preparation, the other sees it as punishment. You must understand that the mind is always learning, even when you're not trying to teach it. Every complaint trains it to expect struggle. Every excuse trains it to accept mediocrity. Every time you quit early, your mind learns that quitting is an option. And once your mind learns something, it will try to repeat it because repetition feels safe. This is why change feels uncomfortable at first. When you introduce new thoughts, discipline, belief, confidence, they feel foreign. The mind resists not because the new thoughts are wrong, but because they are unfamiliar. Growth always feels awkward before it feels normal. That discomfort is not a sign that something is wrong. It's a sign that something is changing. You cannot wait for your environment to change before your thinking changes. That's backward. Your thinking must change first. The moment you decide to think differently, your behavior begins to shift. And when behavior shifts, results eventually follow. But the delay between new thinking and new results is where most people quit. They think one positive thought and expect a new life. When it doesn't happen immediately, they go back to the old mental patterns that feel more honest, more realistic, more safe. More safe. Realistic thinking is often just repeated doubt dressed up as wisdom. People say, I'm just being realistic, when what they really mean is, I've practiced disbelief longer than belief. Reality bends toward repetition. If you repeatedly imagine failure, your nervous system prepares for it. If you repeatedly imagine success, your mind begins organizing behavior toward it. This does not mean ignoring problems. It means choosing how you interpret them. A disciplined thinker does not deny reality, but they also don't let reality define their ceiling. They say, yeah, this is hard, but it's not permanent. They say, I don't know how yet, but I'm willing to learn. That word yet is powerful. It keeps the future open. Your inner dialogue is shaping your outer discipline. If you constantly tell yourself you're lazy, you'll subconsciously look for evidence to prove it. If you tell yourself you're growing, you'll correct yourself faster when you slip. The mind wants to stay consistent with the story it's telling. Change the story, and behavior will eventually follow. This is why affirmations alone don't work if they are not repeated with conviction and backed by action. One positive sentence cannot overpower years of negative rehearsal. But consistent, intentional thinking combined with disciplined behavior rewires identity. Identity is nothing more than the story you believe about yourself, reinforced by repeated action. Your mind is also deeply influenced by emotion. Emotional experiences imprint thoughts more strongly. That's why painful memories replay so easily. But you can use this same mechanism intentionally. When you attach emotion to growth, pride, purpose, meaning, those thoughts stick. When you celebrate discipline instead of resenting it, your mind begins associating growth with reward instead of loss. Be careful what you repeatedly consume. Media, conversations, music, and social environments all reinforce certain ways of thinking. If you constantly hear messages of scarcity, comparison, and fear, your mind will normalize them. If you constantly engage with content that challenges you to think bigger, your mental baseline rises. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your mental conditioning. Repeated thinking also affects your tolerance for discomfort. If you constantly tell yourself something is too hard, your threshold for effort shrinks. If you repeatedly tell yourself, I can handle this, your capacity expands. Pain does not break people, interpretation does. Two people feel the same pressure. One grows stronger, the other grows bitter. The difference is the meaning they assign to it through repeated thought. Your thoughts are practicing your future before it arrives. When you rehearse confidence in your mind, execution becomes smoother. When you rehearse panic, hesitation becomes automatic. Mental rehearsal is real. Athletes use it, leaders use it. High performers visualize success not as fantasy, but as preparation. The mind cannot always distinguish between vivid imagination and real experience. Use that to your advantage. One of the greatest dangers is unconscious repetition. Thoughts you don't question become beliefs you don't challenge. That's why awareness is critical. You must listen to yourself talk to yourself. Catch patterns, catch language, catch assumptions. Ask yourself, is this thought helping me move forward or keeping me where I am? If it's not serving growth, it doesn't deserve repetition. Replacing thoughts is more effective than resisting them. If you try to stop thinking something without replacing it, your mind will return to it stronger. Instead of saying, I won't think negative, introduce a disciplined alternative. Replace I can't with I'm learning. Replace it's over with it. This is part of the process. Replacement creates redirection. Consistency matters more than intensity. Thinking differently once won't change you. Thinking differently daily will. You don't need to overhaul your mind in a week. You need to show up and practice better thinking every day. Just like physical training, mental training compounds over time. Small mental reps create massive internal strength. Your future self is being built in your current thinking patterns. The person you want to become is already forming or being delayed by what you rehearsed today. Every disciplined thought is a brick. Every undisciplined thought is a crack. You are constructing something whether you are conscious of it or not. Eventually, repeated thinking becomes automatic. What once required effort becomes instinct. What once felt forced becomes natural. That's when growth feels effortless. Not because it is easy, but because you trained your mind to move in that direction. Freedom is not doing whatever you want. It's wanting what moves you forward. You become what you think about most, not occasionally, but consistently. Guard your thoughts not because you are weak, but because you are powerful. Your mind is a tool. Use it deliberately. Train it patiently. And remember this, your thoughts are not just passing ideas. They are instructions to your future. Think with intention long enough, and your life will have no choice but to follow. Your mouth can either cancel or confirm your future. And most people don't realize how much damage or power comes out of their own words. You can work hard all day and still sabotage yourself in minutes with careless speech. You can pray for growth and then talk yourself out of it. You can dream big and then speak small. Words are not harmless. They are signals. They tell your mind what to believe, your emotions how to respond, and your behavior which direction to move. Every word you speak is either planning or pulling. You are either reinforcing confidence or feeding doubt. You are either building momentum or applying brakes. And the most dangerous thing about your words is that you hear them more than anyone else. You can lie to people, but you cannot escape your own voice. Your subconscious is always listening, always recording, always learning. Most people think their words are just reactions to life. But in reality, their words are shaping how they experience life. When you consistently speak negatively, your mind begins to expect negative outcomes. When you constantly complain, your brain starts scanning for things to complain about. Complaining doesn't release pressure. It trains your mind to live in frustration. Over time, your language becomes your lifestyle. You have to understand this clearly. You don't talk the way you talk because of your circumstances. Your circumstances often look the way they do because of how you talk. Language directs focus. Focus directs energy. Energy directs action. Action directs results. That change starts with the mouth. One of the biggest mistakes people make is confusing honesty with negativity. Saying this is hard is honest. Saying this will never work is destructive. Saying I'm tired, it can't be truthful. Saying I can't do this, a program's defeat. There is a difference between acknowledging reality and surrendering to it. Your words should reflect awareness, not surrender. Your mouth gives instructions to your nervous system. When you repeatedly say things like I'm overwhelmed, your body prepares for stress. When you say, I can handle this, your body shifts into problem-solving mode. This is not motivation, it's biology. Motivation is biology. Word responses and Speak fear long enough, and your body will live in tension. Speak strength consistently, and your body learns resilience. You must also recognize how quickly words become identity. Say, I'm bad with money enough time, and your brain stops looking for financial discipline. Say, I'm just not confident long enough, and confidence stops feeling accessible. Labels limit behavior, and many of the labels people live under were spoken by themselves, not imposed by others. Your mouth also reveals what you truly believe. You can say you want success, but your casual comments expose your real expectations. If you constantly joke about failure, downplay your goals, or speak doubt disguised as humility, your words are leaking your belief system. Your mouth doesn't lie under pressure, it exposes. Another major issue is emotional speech. When emotions run high, discipline often runs low. People say things they don't mean, but the damage still counts. The mind doesn't erase words just because they were spoken emotionally. That's why maturity is learning to pause before you speak. Silence is not weakness. Silence is control. Not every thought needs a microphone. Not every feeling needs a voice. Discipline in speech means filtering before releasing. Ask yourself, is this helpful? Is this necessary? Is this aligned with where I'm going? If the answer is no, silence is the wiser choice. You don't need to comment on everything. You don't need to respond to every provocation. Reaction is cheap. Control is expensive. Oversharing is another way people talk themselves out of progress. When you tell everyone your plans before you execute, you often release the energy needed to do the work. Talking gives a false sense of accomplishment. It feels like movement without requiring discipline. And when you share your vision with people who don't understand it, their doubt becomes noise in your mind. Protecting your mouth also means protecting your circle. Conversations shape thinking. If you surround yourself with people who complain, gossip, and blame, your language will eventually match theirs. Speech is contagious. So is vision. Choose environments where growth is spoken naturally, not mocked. Your mouth also affects your relationships. Harsh words create distance. Careless words break trust. Encouraging words build loyalty. How you speak to people determines how safe they feel around you. And how safe people feel around you determines the quality of your connection. Discipline in speech is not just about success. It's about respect. You must also be careful with self-criticism. Accountability is healthy. Self-abuse is not. Be firm with yourself without being cruel. You can correct behavior without attacking identity. Saying, I made a mistake allows growth. Saying, I'm a mess, I create stagnation. Talk to yourself the way you would coach someone you believe in. Your words also shape time. When you constantly say it one day, your brain hears delay. When you say it a day, your brain prepares for action. Language creates urgency or postponement. Success favors people whose words reflect intention, not wishful thinking. Another overlooked area is humor. Joking about failure, weakness, or lack might feel harmless, but repetition still matters. Your mind doesn't fully separate jokes from belief. If you laugh about being undisciplined long enough, discipline starts feeling unnatural. Be careful what you normalize with humor. Your mouth should also be aligned with your stand. Speak in a way that reflects where you are going, not where you came from. Elevated language produces elevated thinking. That doesn't mean pretending to be perfect. It means refusing to degrade yourself or your future with careless speech. There will be moments when speaking positively feels fake. That's normal. Growth often feels unnatural at first. But disciplined speech is not about lying. It's about choosing direction. You are not denying struggle. You are declaring commitment. You are not ignoring reality. You are shaping response. Words also have timing. Knowing when to speak is as important as knowing what to say. Some battles are won by silence. Some confidence built quietly. Not everything needs explanation. Your soul speaks louder than arguments ever will. Your mouth also reinforces discipline when motivation fades. When you verbalize commitment out loud, you strengthen resolve. Saying, I don't feel like it, but I'm doing it anyway, reasserts control. Language can pull you through moments when emotion wants to quit. Understand this. Your words today are rehearsing your future identity. Speak like someone who is growing, even while learning. Speak like someone who is disciplined, even while improving. Over time, behavior catches up with language. Control your mouth not because words are magic, but because they are directional. They aim your thoughts, steady your emotions, and guide your actions. Life listens, but more importantly, you listen. And what you consistently say becomes what you consistently see. When you master your speech, you master influence over yourself first, and then over your environment. And once your words stop canceling your progress, they begin confirming your destiny. Stop talking your way out of your own breakthrough. That's a hard truth, but it's necessary. Many people don't fail because they lack talent, opportunity, or potential. They fail because they keep opening their mouth at the wrong time to the wrong people for the wrong reasons. They explain too much, announce too early, complain too often, and justify too long. And every unnecessary word becomes a leak in their momentum. Talking feels productive, but it's not the same as progress. Saying you're going to change is not the same as changing. Explaining your plans is not the same as executing them. Venting about your struggles is not the same as overcoming them. The mind gets tricked by talk. It releases emotional pressure and creates the illusion of movement. So you feel like you've done something when in reality nothing has changed. Every breakthrough requires energy, focus, and belief. Excessive talking drains all three. When you constantly talk about what you're going to do, you spend the energy that should have gone into discipline. When you keep explaining your struggles, you reinforce the struggle in your own mind. When you talk to people who don't understand your vision, their doubt becomes noise in your head, and noise kills focus. Some people talk because they want validation. They want someone to say, you're right, or that's hard, or you deserve better. And while encouragement has its place, chasing validation weakens self-trust. Breakthroughs are built on internal agreement, not external applause. If you need everyone to understand you before you move, you'll stay stuck waiting. There's also a difference between accountability and announcements. Accountability is strategic. It's choosing a few disciplined people who will challenge you, not comfort you. Announcement is emotional. It's broadcasting your goals to anyone who will listen, hoping their reaction will motivate you. Motivation that comes from people is unstable. When their interest fades, so does your drive. Silence, on the other hand, builds pressure, and pressure produces power. When you stop talking and start working, your focus sharpens. Your energy consolidates. Your actions become louder than your explanation. Silence forces you to deal with reality instead of narrating it. And reality is where growth happens. Talking too much also invites unnecessary opinions. Everybody has advice for a plan they're not willing to commit to. The moment you speak your vision out loud, people project their fears onto it. They tell you what didn't work for them, what they heard, what they think is risky. And if you're not mentally strong, those opinions start shaping your decisions. Not everyone who questions you is against you, but not everyone who questions you deserves an answer. Some questions are distractions disguised as concern. Some advice is limitation disguised as wisdom. You must learn to discern the difference. Explaining yourself to everyone is exhausting, and exhaustion leads to compromise. Another way people talk themselves out of breakthrough is through excuses. Excuses sound reasonable, they sound responsible, they sound mature, but repetition turns them into permission. When you keep explaining why you couldn't do something, your mind starts accepting that explanation as true. Excuses become identity, and once identity forms, behavior follows. You don't need better explanations. You need better execution. Life doesn't reward intention. It rewards results. Nobody remembers what you meant to do. They remember what you did. The more time you spend explaining your situation, the less time you spend changing it. Complaining is another form of destructive talking. Complaining feels like release, but it's actually reinforcement. Every complaint tells your brain, this is bigger than me. Over time, complaining conditions helplessness. You stop looking for solutions because your mouth has trained your mind to expect sympathy instead of strategy. High performers talk less about problems and more about plans. They don't ignore difficulty, but they don't give it a microphone. They understand that attention feeds things. What you focus on grows. What you verbalize repeatedly becomes dominant. Starve problems of attention and feed solutions with action. Oversharing personal struggles can also delay growth. Vulnerability is powerful, but only in the right context. Sharing pain with people who gossip, judge, or misunderstand can turn healing into harm. Not everyone deserves your story. Some people use your honesty as entertainment, comparison, or leverage. Protect your process. Breakthrough seasons often require privacy. When you're building something new, you're fragile, not weak, but forming. Constant commentary during formation can interrupt progress. Just like a seed grows underground before it breaks the surface, your next level may need silence before visibility. There's also the danger of talking yourself out of discipline in the moment. You start negotiating out loud. I'll do it tomorrow. Just this once. I've earned a break. When spoken, these negotiations feel justified. But discipline doesn't negotiate, it decides. Talking gives temptation a platform. Silence shuts it down. Another trap is explaining yourself to people who have already decided not to support you. No amount of talking will change a closed mind. At some point, explanation turns into begging for understanding. And the more you beg, the smaller you feel. Confidence doesn't argue, it demonstrates. Your breakthrough requires faith, and faith grows in quiet obedience. The louder you talk, the more you rely on feedback. The quieter you move, the more you rely on conviction. Conviction is stronger than applause because it doesn't disappear when nobody is watching. Learn to let results introduce you. Let consistency speak for you. Let discipline answer questions you don't need to respond to. When people see change, explanations become unnecessary. When progress is visible, doubt becomes irrelevant. Silence also sharpens listening. When you stop talking, you start observing. You notice patterns, you hear opportunity. You sense when to move and when to wait. Too much talking numbs awareness. Silence restores clarity. This doesn't mean never speaking. It means speaking intentionally. When you do speak, let your words be few and focused. Speak to plan, not to complain. Speak to build, not to vent. Speak to align, not to excuse. Words should serve your future, not sabotage it. Your breakthrough is closer than you think, but proximity requires discipline. Every time you resist the urge to explain, complain, or announce, you conserve energy. That energy compounds. And eventually it turns into execution so strong that no explanation is required. Stop narrating your life and start living it. Stop explaining delays and start producing results. Stop talking your way out of your own breakthrough and start moving in silence toward it. Money is a tool, not a master, but for many people it has quietly taken control of their emotions, their decisions, and even their identity. They don't wake up intending to serve money, yet their daily choices reveal who's really in charge. Stress rises and falls with bank balances. Confidence shows up or disappears based on income. Peace depends on what's in the account. When money controls your mood, it's no longer a tool, it's a ruler. Money itself is neutral. It has no personality, no morality, no agenda. It doesn't make people greedy, it exposes greed. It doesn't create discipline. It reveals whether discipline already exists. The problem is not money. The problem is the relationship people have with it. Many people either fear money, chase money, or avoid money, but very few actually manage it with intention. If money is not under your control, it will dictate your option. It will determine where you live, how you think, what risks you take, and what dreams you postpone. People say they want freedom, but freedom is expensive and money is one of the currencies that buys it. Not luxury freedom, choice freedom. The freedom to walk away from unhealthy situations. The freedom to invest and grow. The freedom to say no when compromise is off. Control starts with understanding that money responds to leadership. When you tell money where to go, it behaves. When you ignore it, it disappears. Many people don't have a money problem. They have an attention problem. They don't track, plan, or review. They hope. And hope is not a financial strategy. You don't need to be rich to control money. You need discipline. Discipline is what separates those who use money from those who are used by it. Without discipline, more income only amplifies bad habits. That's why people who win the lottery often end up broke again. The income changed, but the mindset did. Money doesn't fix character. It magnifies it. Emotions are one of the biggest threats to financial control. People spend to celebrate, to cope, to impress, to escape. Spending becomes therapy. Buying becomes validation. And every emotional purchase teaches the brain that relief can be bought. Over time, this creates dependency. Money stops being a resource and starts becoming an emotional regulator. Delayed gratification is the foundation of financial mastery. The ability to say no now so you can say yes later separates stability from stress. Discipline with money means choosing long-term peace over short-term pleasure. It means understanding that every dollar spent impulsively is a dollar stolen from your future options. Many people say, I'll manage money better when I make more. But habits don't wait for circumstances, they grow in them. If you don't respect small amount, you won't respect large ones. Control is not about quantity, it's about behavior. A person who manages a little well is already practicing wealth, whether the numbers reflect it yet or not. Budgeting is often misunderstood. People think budgets restrict life, but in reality, they protect it. A budget doesn't tell you what you can do. It tells you what you're choosing to do on purpose. Without a plan, money leaks into convenience, impulse, and forgetfulness. With a plan, money becomes aligned with values. Money also reveals priorities. Where you spend is where your values live. This isn't about judgment. It's about awareness. If your spending doesn't match your stated goals, there's misalignment. And misalignment creates frustration. You feel stuck not because progress is impossible, but because resources are being sent in the wrong direction. Debt is another area where money becomes a master instead of a tool. Not all debt is the same, but undisciplined debt always comes with a cost beyond interest. It creates mental pressure. It limits options. It forces future labor to pay for past decisions. Debt is borrowing from tomorrow's energy, and too much of it makes the future heavy before it arrives. Control doesn't mean fear. Some people avoid money because it stresses them out. They don't check balances. They don't open statements. Avoidance feels like peace, but it's temporary. Avoidance gives money more power, not less. Control comes from clarity, even when clarity is uncomfortable. Saving is not about hoarding. It's about preparation. It's about telling your future self, I've got you. Emergencies are not surprises. They are guarantees. Preparation turns emergencies into inconveniences instead of disasters. A disciplined saver sleeps differently because uncertainty has less power. Investing in yourself is also a form of financial control. Knowledge, skills, and growth often provide better returns than possessions. Buying things that depreciate to impress people is expensive and security. Investing in capabilities builds confidence that doesn't disappear when money fluctuates. Money also tests patience. Growth takes time. Compounding rewards consistency, not urgency. People want fast money because they don't trust slow discipline. But fast money often comes with fast loss. Sustainable growth is boring, steady, and powerful. It doesn't excite crowds, but it builds futures. Another trap is comparison. Social pressure pushes people to spend beyond their reality to match someone else's highlight reel. Comparison turns money into a performance instead of a resource. You start buying images instead of value. And no matter how much you earn, there will always be someone with more. Peace comes from alignment, not competition. Money should serve your mission, not replace it. When money becomes the goal instead of the tool, fulfillment disappears. People chase numbers thinking they will feel complete, only to realize that without purpose, money just amplifies emptiness. Control means assigning money a job that supports who you want to become. Generosity also requires control. You can't give consistently if you don't manage wisely. Giving from chaos leads to resentment. Giving from discipline creates joy. Control allows you to help without hurting yourself. Fear-based thinking around money is another form of slavery. Constant worry, scarcity mindset, and panic decisions keep people stuck. Fear narrows thinking. Control expands it. When you have a plan, fear loses volume. Confidence grows not because there's more money, but because there's more clarity. Money reflects patience, honesty, and self-awareness. It exposes impulse, avoidance, and ego. That's why mastering money is really about mastering self. Numbers don't lie, but they do tell stories. Stories about habits, values, and discipline. True financial control doesn't mean obsession. It means awareness. It means intentionality. It means knowing where you stand and where you're going. Money should support your life, not consume it. When money is a tool, you use it to build. When it's a master, it uses you to survive. The difference is discipline. Control your money and you expand your options. Lose control and even abundance won't feel like enough. Master the tool and it will serve you. Let it master you and it will never be satisfied. Small financial decisions reveal big character, even though most people think character is proven only in dramatic moments. In reality, character is exposed quietly, daily, and choices no one applauds and no one posts online. It's revealed in how you treat money when the amount feels insignificant, when no one is watching, and when discipline feels unnecessary. Big financial moments don't shape you. They expose what small habits have already built. Most people believe wealth is about income, but income only magnifies behavior. If discipline is missing in small decisions, chaos will show up in large ones. That coffee you didn't plan for, the subscription you forgot about, the impulse buy that felt harmless. These moments don't look serious, but they are training sessions. They are rehearsals for how you will handle bigger opportunities later. You don't rise to financial responsibility, you practice it. Small decisions are powerful because they are frequent. A single poor choice won't ruin you, but repeated careless choices will quietly drain momentum. Financial stress rarely comes from one massive mistake. It usually comes from thousands of small, undisciplined decisions that seem reasonable at the time. The danger is not the cost, it's the habit being reinforced. Every small decision sends a message to your identity. When you consistently choose convenience over planning, your brain learns that comfort comes first. When you consistently avoid tracking expenses, your mind learns that avoidance is acceptable. When you constantly justify small indulgences, you train yourself to negotiate discipline instead of practicing it. Over time, these negotiations become automatic. People often say, it's just a little money. But little money handled poorly teaches big irresponsibility. Money doesn't recognize size. It recognizes patterns. If you leak a little consistently, you will leak a lot eventually. Character is built in the margins, not the milestones. Small financial decisions also reveal patience. Patience is not about waiting. It's about choosing wisely while waiting. When you delay gratification on something small, you strengthen your ability to delay gratification on something big. When you can't say no to small impulses, saying no to large temptations becomes nearly impossible. There is also honesty in small decisions. It's easy to be financially irresponsible when people are watching or when the stakes are high. It's harder when nobody will know if you cut a corner. But self-respect grows when your private behavior matches your public standards. Integrity with money is not about perfection. It's about consistency. Small choices reveal priorities. Where you spend casually shows what you truly value, not what you say you value. This isn't about guilt, it's about alignment. If your daily spending doesn't reflect your long-term goals, frustration is inevitable. You will feel like you're working hard, but going nowhere, because your resources are being redirected without intention. Discipline in small decisions also builds confidence. Every time you follow through on a financial plan, even in a minor way, you strengthen trust in yourself. Self-trust is priceless. When you don't trust yourself with small commitments, you hesitate with bigger ones. Confidence doesn't come from motivation. It comes from evidence. And evidence is built in small wins. Many people underestimate the emotional side of small spending. Impulse purchases often have nothing to do with need and everything to do with mood. Stress spending, boredom spending, reward spending, these patterns feel harmless, but they teach the brain that emotions deserve immediate relief. Over time, money becomes an emotional crutch instead of a strategic resource. Awareness is the first step to mastery. You can't correct what you refuse to notice. Small decisions expose avoidance quickly. If tracking expenses feels uncomfortable, that discomfort is information. It's showing you where growth is needed. Discipline begins when you stop running from clarity. Small financial decisions also shape your tolerance for structure. Some people resist planning because it feels restrictive. But structure doesn't remove freedom, it creates it. When you manage small details, you reduce stress and increase options. Chaos might feel flexible, but it's expensive. Structure feels tight at first, but it buys peace later. There is humility in respecting small amounts. When you treat every dollar with intention, you acknowledge that progress is built gradually. Pride dismisses small steps. Humility honors them. And humility is teachable. Pride is expensive. Small decisions also reveal whether you live reactively or intentionally. Reactive spending responds to circumstance. Intentional spending responds to purpose. Reactivity gives money control. Intention takes it back. Each small choice is an opportunity to shift from reaction to leadership. People often want transformation without transition. They want big change without small discipline. But life doesn't work that way. Small decisions are the transition. They are the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. Skip them and the bridge collapses. Small financial discipline also strengthens patience with results. You learn to value progress over excitement. You stop chasing quick wins and start respecting steady growth. This mindset protects you from risky shortcuts and emotional decisions that look attractive but cause stability. Another truth is that small decisions expose gratitude. When you respect what you have now, you prepare yourself for more. When you waste what you have, you signal unreadiness. Gratitude is not a feeling, it's behavior. It shows up in care, planning, and stewardship. Consistency in small decisions creates identity. You stop seeing yourself as a bad with money and start seeing yourself as disciplined. Identity shapes behavior faster than rules ever will. Once you believe you are a careful steward, reckless choices feel uncomfortable instead of tempting. Small decisions also teach resilience. You will slip, you will make mistakes. Character is revealed not in never failing, but in correcting quickly. When you notice a small error and adjust instead of ignoring it, you reinforce growth. Avoidance lets mistakes grow. Correction keeps them small. There's also wisdom in understanding opportunity cost. Every small purchase is not just about what you buy, but what you delay or sacrifice. This awareness matures thinking. You begin to see money as potential energy, not just currency. Where you place it matters. Small financial choices are often boring. That's why they're powerful. Boring habits build extraordinary outcomes over time. Excitement fades. Discipline compounds. The future belongs to those who respect the boring work. People with strong financial character don't wait for motivation. They rely on systems. Systems remove emotion from decisions. When systems handle the small things, willpower is preserved for big challenges. This is how discipline becomes sustainable. Small decisions also expose whether you live in scarcity or stewardship. Scarcity panics and grabs. Stewardship plans and prepares. Scarcity spends to feel better now. Stewardship delays to feel secure later. These mindsets show up long before wealth arrives. Ultimately, small financial decisions are never small. They are votes. Votes for the kind of person you are becoming. Votes for the future you are building. You don't need perfect decisions, just honest, consistent ones. Character is not revealed when the check is large and the spotlight is bright. It is revealed when the amount is small, the moment is private, and discipline is optional. Master the small decisions, and the big ones won't intimidate you. Ignore them. Even success will feel unstable. Big outcomes are built quietly, and the quiet work always starts small. Your habits are the bridge between your mouth, your mind, and your money. They are the daily rituals that either advance your life or hold it back. Most people underestimate the silent power of habits because they are invisible in the moment. One decision seems trivial. One repeated behavior seems harmless. One small choice appears inconsequential. But over time, those tiny decisions accumulate into results that can either lift you to your next level or keep you trapped where you are. Habits are the physical expression of your beliefs, the execution of your intentions, and the proof of your discipline. The mind thrives on repetition. That is why habits are so powerful. They automate thought into action. When a behavior becomes habitual, it no longer requires debate or motivation. The mind can rest while the body executes. But the danger is that your mind doesn't distinguish between helpful and harmful repetition. If you repeatedly tell yourself you are too tired to work, your habits reinforce exhaustion. If you repeatedly excuse small indulgences, your habits reinforce complacency. Habits are neutral. They amplify whatever you feed into them consistently. Your mouth is a powerful teacher of habits. Every time you verbalize your intentions, you set your mind and body into motion. Words create mental rehearsal. They instruct the nervous system on what to expect, how to feel, and how to act. Speaking discipline out loud reinforces action. Speaking excuses out loud reinforces stagnation. Over time, your speech trains your habits more than your motivation ever could. That is why high performers are intentional with their words. They use language to train themselves. Money habits are often overlooked because people focus on income rather than behavior. Saving, budgeting, investing, giving, and tracking spending, all habits, and they shape financial reality far more than the paycheck itself. Someone who earns little but handles it wisely can grow steadily, while someone who earns much but spends carelessly can remain trapped. Discipline in money is first mental, then verbal, and finally habitual. Without habits, even wisdom fails to produce results. Habits also shape identity. People do not change who they are through rare moments of inspiration. They change by repeating small behaviors consistently. One workout, one page read, one disciplined choice, these are insignificant in isolation. But when repeated, they signal to the brain who you are. Identity forms in repetition, not declaration. Your habits teach yourself more about you than anyone else ever could. That is why the person who becomes disciplined doesn't feel forced. They feel natural because their habits have trained them. Most people focus on outcomes rather than the process, but results are the sum of habits. You cannot control every external factor, but you can control what you do consistently. People fail not because the world is unfair, but because they neglect the small, repeatable actions that build momentum. Your future is being written daily in the patterns you choose, whether you realize it or not. Habits are the pen. Discipline is the hand. Your attention is the ink. Habits also conserve mental energy. Without structured repetition, the mind must constantly debate every decision. Should I do this? Should I not? This constant deliberation depletes focus, motivation, and willpower. When actions become habitual, the mind is free for high-level thinking. This is why morning routine, disciplined work schedules, and intentional financial processes are not restriction. They are liberation. They protect energy for the moments that truly require judgment. The danger lies in neglecting the power of micro decisions. Every day you make hundreds of small choices that seem inconsequential. What to eat, what to buy, how to react, when to scroll, when to pause. These choices are like grains of sand on a scale. One grain does not tip it, but thousands accumulate weight. Habits are the collection of these micro decisions, and they determine whether you are progressing or regressing. The consistency is what matters more than intensity. Small, repeated actions win over occasional extremes. Habits also regulate emotion. Emotional discipline is often more valuable than knowledge or skill because emotion drives behavior. When fear, frustration, or fatigue shows up, your habits dictate your response. Someone who has trained themselves to act despite discomfort will continue to move forward. Someone without structure will surrender to emotion every time. Habits build resilience because they create automatic response patterns aligned with long-term goals rather than immediate feelings. The environment plays a significant role in habit formation. People often fail to recognize that habits are easier or harder depending on context. The places you occupy, the people you spend time with, and the inputs you consume all influence what becomes automatic. If you surround yourself with distraction, temptation, and low-level thinking, your habits will bend toward ease and comfort. If you surround yourself with discipline, accountability, and challenge, your habits will align with growth, external conditions shape into repetition. Habits are also cumulative. Small habits in isolation may not seem impressive, but when combined, they create compounding results. Reading 5 pages a day grows knowledge exponentially over a year. Saving $10 a week grows into financial stability over time. Exercising consistently improves health dramatically over years. The compound effect is not obvious at first, but it is relentless. Habits are the engine of long-term transformation. Self-awareness is crucial in habit mastery. Many people operate unconsciously, repeating behaviors without realizing the patterns they are reinforcing. Awareness is the first step in choosing which habits to keep, which to adjust, and which to eliminate. Journaling, reflection, and honest evaluation provide the clarity necessary to identify which behaviors support your goals and which do not. Without awareness, habits are dictated by convenience and emotion, not purpose and design. Habits also require patience. Transformation is rarely instant. Habits need repetition to take hold, and the process can feel mundane or frustrating. Most people quit before the pattern becomes automatic because they underestimate the power of slow, steady change. Discipline is required to persist through the boredom of repetition. The reward is eventual freedom, the ability to act correctly without struggle. Failure is part of habit development. Mistakes, slip-ups, and setbacks aren't inevitable. Habits are not about perfection. They are about persistence. One misstep does not erase the pattern, but repeated abandonment does. Consistency over time matters more than any single moment. Resilient people understand that habits are trains, not single trips. They can derail temporarily, but still reach the destination if they return to the track. Accountability amplifies habit formation. When someone else knows your goals or you have structured track progress, the mind takes the process more seriously. Peer pressure can be positive when it encourages consistency and discourages excuses. Without accountability, habits are easier to ignore. Structures, reminders, and external support help internal repetition become permanent. Habits also determine focus. When repetitive behaviors are aligned with goals, the mind learns to prioritize automatically. Distractions lose appeal, impulse decisions weaken. The brain begins to recognize patterns that support advancement and dismiss patterns that do not. Focus is not just a matter of willpower. It is a product of disciplined repetition. Habits train attention more reliably than motivation ever can. Habits shape character, not only outcomes. Someone may appear disciplined externally, but consistent private behaviors reveal true integrity. Character is exposed in repeated, everyday choices. How you spend time, money, energy, and words. Habits encode values into behavior. Over time, actions solidify beliefs, and beliefs define identity. Your habits ultimately tell the story of who you are becoming. Positive habits are contagious. People who operate in disciplined patterns influence those around them. Environments shaped by habitual excellence encourage replication. Conversely, destructive habits influence others to mirror neglect and disorder. Habits are not isolated. They ripple through relationships, communities, and opportunities. Controlling your habits not only shapes your life, but impacts the people who witness your consistency. Habits require intent. Random repetition does not produce growth. You must decide which behaviors to repeat, how to perform them, and under what condition. Intentionality ensures that habits serve your goals rather than default to convenience. Every habit you maintain should have a clear purpose. Without purpose, repetition becomes routine. Without benefit, habits also provide leverage. Small, disciplined actions allow you to do more with less effort over time. Momentum builds automatically. One day, a habit that seemed minor becomes a skill, a resource, or a strength that opens doors previously inaccessible. The person with habits has leverage over circumstance because their behavior is predictable, reliable, and replicable. The ultimate power of habits is that they create automatic success. Motivation is temporary. Willpower is finite. Habits operate consistently beyond emotion, beyond context, beyond fluctuation. When your life is driven by positive habits, excellence is no longer forced, it is inevitable. Habits turn potential energy into kinetic achievement. They bridge the gap between intention and reality. Habits also teach mastery over self. When you control your behaviors consistently, you develop authority over your mind, your mouth, and your money. They become instruments of discipline rather than sources of chaos. You don't need to rely on fleeting feelings. You don't need constant reminders. Habits become the internal architecture that sustains growth. Finally, habits compound across every area of life. Mental discipline strengthens habits of thought. Verbal discipline strengthens habits of speech. Financial discipline strengthens habits of money management. Each reinforces the other. Habits are not isolated. They are a network, a web that structures your entire existence. Mastering small, consistent actions across mind, mouth, and money creates an unstoppable trajectory. Habits are silent, invisible, yet relentless. They define who you become more than talent, opportunity, or motivation. Excellence is never a single act. It is the accumulation of repeated behavior over time. Master your habits and mastery of life follows naturally. Ignore them and even talent will fail to reach its potential. Habits are the bridge. Walk it daily. Your environment is a reflection of your mind, your habits, and your priorities, and it has more influence over your success than most people realize. Many people think they are autonomous, believing that their choices alone determine their outcomes. But environment shapes behavior in subtle, persistent ways. It sets norms, cues reactions, and establishes patterns before you even think consciously. The people you surround yourself with, the spaces you occupy, the inputs you consume, they all act as silent instructors. They teach you what is acceptable, what is possible, and what is expected. If you want to control your mind, your mouth, and your money, controlling your environment is not optional. It's essential. Environment is the amplifier of discipline or the multiplier of chaos. Small personal habits can be undone quickly when the external world encourages the opposite. If you aim to save money, but live with people who spend impulsively, your discipline is tested constantly. If you want to speak positively but are surrounded by gossip, negativity, or doubt, your mouth adopts their language. If you want mental clarity but your environment is cluttered, chaotic, and distracting, your mind suffers. You cannot outthink or outspeak the world you live in. You must first shape it strategically. The people in your environment have the most immediate influence. Humans are inherently social creatures. You are wired to mimic speech patterns, attitudes, and behaviors of those you interact with regularly. It's not just about obvious habits, it's about subtle cues, tone, reactions, emotional responses, and belief system. Spend time with people who complain and find excuses, and your subconscious begins to accept those patterns as normal. Spend time with people who act with integrity, plan with intention, and speak with purpose, and you adopt those patterns naturally. Your circle either lifts you or limits you, and it is often the biggest determinant of whether your words, thoughts, and financial behavior align with your goals. Beyond people, physical spaces impact your performance and mindset. Cluttered spaces create cluttered minds. Disorganized work environments foster procrastination, distraction, and inefficiency. Conversely, environments that are clean, organized, and intentional signal the brain to focus, execute, and respect time. Your environment cues behavior, sometimes more than rules or willpower ever can. If you want to speak with confidence, think with clarity, or spend wisely, design spaces that reflect those values. Remove unnecessary noise, distractions, and temptations, and you'll find it easier to act according to your intention. Information consumption is another aspect of environment that shapes your outcomes. The media you follow, the content you absorb, and the messages you allow into your mind are all part of your environment. If you continuously consume fear, gossip, or scarcity thinking, it seeps into your decisions, your speech, and your financial choices. On the other hand, information that educates, motivates, and expands perspective reinforces constructive habits and beliefs. Your mind is a garden, and your inputs are the seeds. Choose wisely what you plant. Technology, social media, and constant notifications are modern environmental challenges. They fragment attention, reduce discipline, and distort reality. Mindless scrolling trains the brain for instant gratification, undermining the patience required for growth, investment, and deliberate communication. It bombards your thoughts with distraction and your mouth with reactive commentary. To control your mind, mouth, and money, you must manage not only physical spaces and social circles, but also the digital environment that shapes perception, desire, and focus. Your environment also impacts emotional regulation. Stress, tension, and conflict in surroundings influence how you respond to challenges. Negative energy can trigger reactive speech, impulsive spending, or poor decision-making. Peaceful, organized, and supportive environments encourage calm, reflection, thoughtful speech, and disciplined choices. Emotional states are contagious through energy, tone, and vibration. By curating environments that nurture positive emotions, you create conditions where discipline is easier to maintain and destructive patterns are harder to sustain. Time structure is a part of environment often overlooked. How you schedule your day, what tasks you prioritize, and how you allocate focus are all environmental factors that influence behavior. Surrounding yourself with unstructured routines, constant interruptions, or unclear priorities increases the likelihood of impulsive decisions, reactive speech, and wasted resource. Structured schedules, intentional rituals, and well-defined boundaries act as scaffolding for productive behavior. They shape habits by limiting choices that lead to distraction and amplifying choices that build progress. Accountability structures are environmental tools that reinforce mastery. Whether through mentors, coaches, peers, or tracking systems, accountability modifies behavior silently. When someone observes, tracks, or evaluates your actions, you naturally align closer with intended habits. Accountability also provides feedback loops, enabling course corrections that prevent small missteps from compounding. The right environment combines freedom to act with structure that enforce responsibility. Without accountability, even the most disciplined intentions can falter. Culture, both local and virtual, forms a significant environmental layer. It sets expectations for communication, behavior, and financial norms. Cultural environments can normalize poor decision-making or elevate high standard. Awareness of cultural influence allows selective adoption of values and behavior. You cannot isolate yourself from culture entirely, but by consciously choosing communities and networks that reinforce your goals, you create a cultural environment that supports mental, verbal, and financial discipline. Physical health is another environmental component that impacts mind, mouth, and money. Environments that encourage proper nutrition, exercise, and rest enhance mental clarity, emotional stability, and decision-making capacity. Poor physical conditions increase susceptibility to stress, impulsivity, and fatigue, all of which undermine financial discipline and communication. Your surroundings can either strengthen your body, which strengthens your mind, or weaken it, which weakens every other domain of life. Learning-focused environments accelerate growth. Surrounding yourself with resources, books, mentors, and experiences challenge and educate shapes habits of curiosity, critical thinking, and proactive problem solving. Knowledge-rich environments cultivate language, financial literacy, and mental agility. They train the mind to see opportunities rather than obstacles, and the mouth to articulate solutions rather than complaints. Constant learning environments reinforce the belief that improvement is not only possible but expected. Conversely, toxic environments erode progress. Constant criticism, jealousy, blame, or negativity normalizes limitation. These conditions make disciplined behavior feel unnatural, emotional regulation harder, and financial prudence less likely. Toxicity is often subtle. It appears as casual gossip, pessimism, or normalized underachievement. Recognizing toxicity is essential. Protecting yourself from negative environments is as critical as cultivating positive ones, because environmental influence is persistent and cumulative. Financial environment is also crucial. The norms, opportunities, and systems around money either reinforce abundance thinking or scarcity thinking. Access to tools like budgeting apps, investment education, supportive networks, and financial literacy resources creates a reinforcing loop for disciplined decision. Conversely, constant exposure to debt, consumerism, and short-term gratification reinforces financial instability. Your monetary environment teaches your mind what is normal for income, spending, and growth. Whether consciously or unconsciously, habits of communication are environmentally influenced. The language used by peers, colleagues, and community sets a standard for your own speech. Politeness, assertiveness, encouragement, and positivity are learned behaviors. Likewise, gossip, complaining, and self-deprecation are contagious. The people you interact with shape what feels natural to say. To master your mouth, you must choose environments where communication is constructive, purposeful, and aligned with long-term goals. Environmental control also extends to the media you consume. Music, movies, podcasts, news, and social platforms shape emotional tone, language, and perception of wealth and success. Content that dramatizes failure, normalizes procrastination, or glorifies recklessness subtly trains your mind to accept mediocrity. By curating inputs that educate, motivate, and expand perspective, you create an environment that reinforces positive habits in speech, thought, and financial behavior. Reflection and feedback are environmental tools often underutilized. Environments that encourage periodic assessment, journaling, review sessions, mentorship discussions, create conditions for continuous improvement. These practices allow identification of gaps between intention and action, words and behavior, spending and planning. Without reflective environments, habits drift, words become careless, and money slips into reactive patterns. Feedback loops of an environmental design that reinforces mastery. Consistency in environment matters more than occasional intensity. One day, in a disciplined space, won't produce transformation, just as one exposure to distraction won't ruin progress. The cumulative effect of environmental exposure shapes identity. Daily influence compounds over time. The person who consistently interacts with constructive, challenging, and disciplined surroundings will, almost imperceptibly, adopt the behaviors, mindset, and communication patterns of those surroundings. Intentional environmental design is proactive. It's not about avoiding life. It's about shaping conditions to make growth easier and distraction harder. Adjusting surroundings, relationships, and inputs requires awareness, courage, and ongoing maintenance. It's not a one-time setup, it's continuous refinement. Life naturally introduces noise, temptation, and chaos. Your environment must be curated to protect against drift, distraction, and decline. When environment is aligned with values, it becomes invisible scaffolding for success. It supports mental clarity, encourages disciplined speech, reinforces financial prudence, and fosters habits of excellence. When environment is neglected, it becomes friction. It erodes energy, undermines discipline, and normalizes mediocrity. Control of environment is therefore not optional. It is foundational to mastering the mind, the mouth, and money. Your environment ultimately acts as the ecosystem of your growth. Mind, mouth, and money do not exist in isolation. They respond to, learn from, and are shaped by surroundings. By curating spaces, people, inputs, and routines intentionally, you create conditions for consistent action, constructive thought, and purposeful communication. Environment amplifies discipline, buffers against distraction, and accelerates growth. You cannot control everything externally, but you can control the levers that influence behavior most consistently. Select friends, mentors, and peers wisely. Design spaces that support focus, clarity, and productivity. Curate media and content that expand thought rather than diminish it. Build financial systems, routines, and accountability structures that reinforce your goals. Each environmental decision compounds over time, creating conditions where your mind is sharper, your speech is purposeful, and your money serves your mission rather than controlling you. Your environment is both mirror and teacher. It reflects where you are while instructing where you are going. Shape it with intention, protect it with vigilance, and maintain it with consistency. Every habit reinforced, every thought model, and every choice echoed by your environment accelerates mastery. To control your mind, your mouth, and your money, you must first control the spaces, inputs, and relationships that shape them. The path to growth is paved not only with internal discipline, but with external design. Your surroundings determine what behaviors are easy and which are difficult. They influence your resilience, your clarity, and your capacity to act with integrity. Mastery of life is impossible without mastery of environment, because the brain, mouth, and money are continuously learning from what you allow in. Thoughtful, intentional, and aligned environments convert good intentions into consistent action, making the pursuit of excellence not a struggle, but a natural extension of the spaces you occupy and the people you choose to include in your journey. Every step you take in controlling your environment is a step toward autonomy. Every choice to curate relationship space and input strengthens internal discipline. Every investment in an intentional setting compounds over time into mental clarity, verbal precision, and financial stability. You cannot master what you constantly expose to chaos, but you can thrive when every element of your environment is aligned with your goals. Environmental mastery is not optional for those who desire control over mind, mouth, and money. It is the foundation. When you finally take full ownership of your surrounding, you notice a profound shift. Decisions become easier, speech becomes purposeful, and money decisions are deliberate rather than reactive. Habits follow naturally, emotional responses are more measured. Discipline is no longer a battle but a default state. The environment becomes a silent partner in growth, a constant teacher, and a protective framework that ensures your mind, mouth, and money are always working in harmony toward your highest potential. By curating your environment, selecting people, spaces, inputs, and routines, you create a system that supports excellence. Your environment becomes an invisible engine that drives consistency, strengthens character, and amplifies growth. Those who master this principle gain leverage over circumstance, over distraction, and over limitation. They no longer react to chaos, they operate from design. Master your environment, and your mind, mouth, and money will follow, aligned, disciplined, and unstoppable. Your environment is not just a backdrop. It is the foundation on which success is built. Control it deliberately. Protect it fiercely. Refine it continuously. It will silently shape your thoughts, guide your words, and direct your resources. By mastering your environment, you are no longer a passenger in life, but the architect of your destiny. Every habit, every word, and every financial decision becomes easier, more consistent, and more powerful. Environmental mastery is the invisible framework that allows internal mastery to flourish. Your mind absorbs the cues, your mouth reflects the norms, and your money responds to the patterns your environment reinforces. By designing spaces, relationships, and intentionally, you remove friction, amplify focus, and create natural pathways for growth. Environment is not passive. It is active, persistent, and cumulative. Its influence compounds silently until it becomes the difference between stagnation and breakthrough. By curating it thoughtfully, you set the stage for sustained mastery over every area of life. Every choice you make about your surroundings, the people you spend time with, the content you consume, and the spaces you occupy matters. These decisions silently guide thought patterns, speech habits, and financial behavior. Master the environment, and you create conditions where discipline is easier, action is natural, and results are inevitable. Environmental control is the secret multiplier that allows mastery over mind, mouth, and money to become effortless and enduring. When your environment is aligned, every habit, every word, and every decision is reinforced. The distractions fade, the negative patterns diminish, and the path forward becomes clear. Master your environment, and you master the leverage that makes mental clarity, verbal control, and financial discipline not just possible, but inevitable. Your environment shapes who you are becoming, whether you realize it or not. By designing it intentionally, you turn external influence into internal advantage. You create a space where your mind can focus, your mouth can communicate with purpose, and your money can be stewarded with wisdom. Mastering environment is the ultimate act of ownership. It multiplies the effects of every habit, every word, and every decision, creating a life of alignment, discipline, and unstoppable growth. Your surroundings are the foundation. Every thoughtful choice about the people, the spaces, and the inputs you allow builds a framework that ensures your mind, mouth, and money operate in harmony with your goals. Environmental mastery is the invisible force that sustains excellence. Without it, discipline is harder, decisions are more difficult, and potential is compromised. With it, excellence becomes natural, effortless, and inevitable. The path to control begins here, in the spaces you occupy and the influence you allow into your life. Your environment is a teacher, a guide, and a mirror. When mastered, it reinforces every effort, amplifies every habit, and accelerates every goal. It protects your mind, calibrates your speech, and strengthens your financial decision. Control your environment deliberately, and you will find that controlling your mind, mouth, and money becomes not only possible, but inevitable. It is the silent, invisible architecture behind every success, the hidden force shaping consistent growth, and the foundation upon which mastery is built. By designing and controlling your environment, you convert external conditions into allies rather than obstacles. Each intentional choice compounds, shaping thought, speech, and behavior. Habits take root faster, emotional responses stabilize, and financial decisions become deliberate. Your environment becomes the framework that allows your discipline to scale, your clarity to deepen, and your results to multiply. Master your environment, and the mastery of your life follows naturally. Every journey toward mastery over your mind, your mouth, and your money culminates in understanding that control is not a momentary achievement, but a lifelong practice. The principles we have discussed, discipline of thought, intentionality of speech, financial stewardship, the power of small decisions, habits, environmental influence are not isolated skills to be mastered independently. They are interconnected forces that shape the trajectory of your life. To live intentionally is to recognize that every action, every word, and every financial choice carries weight. Mastery begins with awareness and grows through repetition, reflection, and refinement. The mind that is disciplined refuses to surrender to fleeting emotions. The mouth that is controlled chooses words that reflect truth and intention rather than impulse. Money that is managed wisely becomes a tool for opportunity and freedom rather than a source of stress and limitation. The alignment of these three domains creates a life of coherence, where actions and values reinforce each other instead of working in conflict. To truly control your mind, you must first acknowledge its power. Your thoughts precede every action, shaping perception, influencing emotion, and directing energy. Yet many people surrender their mental space to distraction, fear, and reactive patterns. The mind is not a passive organ. It is a force that can be trained, disciplined, and directed. When you become conscious of the narratives you tell yourself, you realize that most limitations exist not in reality, but in perception. Mental control requires vigilance, observing negative patterns, challenging limiting beliefs, and consistently cultivating thoughts that align with your purpose. The disciplined mind is not free from challenge, doubt, or difficulty, but it possesses the capacity to respond with clarity rather than reactivity. It filters information, prioritizes what matters, and resists the seductive pull of trivialities. Mastery of the mind is foundational because it shapes every choice you make. From the words you speak to the way you manage resources, to the habits you reinforce daily. Equally important is the mastery of the mouth. Speech is the physical manifestation of thought and an amplifier of influence. Words are not just communication tools. They are instruments of creation or destruction. What you verbalize to yourself and others reinforces identity, shapes relationships, and signals intent. Many people speak carelessly, allowing negativity, doubt, and gossip to dominate daily conversation. These patterns subtly shape self-perception and the perception others have of you. Controlled speech, however, cultivates alignment between thought, intent, and action. It creates trust, inspires confidence, and strengthens discipline. Every word you choose carefully is a vote for the person you are becoming, reinforcing values, boundaries, and priorities. Mastering the mouth requires self-awareness, restraint, and the courage to pause before reacting. It demands that you speak with purpose, honesty, and clarity, recognizing the spoken word carries power beyond the immediate moment. Financial mastery is the third pillar and is inseparable from the first two. Money is a tool, and like any tool, its effectiveness depends on the hand that wields it. Financial control is not about the accumulation of wealth, it is about intentional management. The disciplined mind informs decisions about earning, saving, investing, and spending. Controlled speech reinforces financial integrity, shaping how commitment, obligations, and agreements are communicated and honored. Habits of responsible financial behavior reinforced consistently produce freedom, flexibility, and opportunity. Poor financial habits, even in small amounts, compound over time into stress, limitation, and lost opportunity. Mastery of money is not merely a mathematical exercise. It is a reflection of value, self-discipline, and long-term thinking. Those who can govern their resources intentionally wield a form of power that enhances choice and protects against the chaos of life's uncertainties. Small decisions, though seemingly trivial, are the building blocks of mastery across all domains. Every choice you make, no matter how minor, contributes to the larger narrative of who you are becoming. Discipline is revealed in the accumulation of micro-actions, the daily decisions to invest, to speak truthfully, to act with intention, and to manage resources wisely. These micro-actions, repeated consistently, compound over time into significant transformations. The person who masters small choices cultivates resilience, patience, and foresight. They learn to defer immediate gratification in favor of long-term gain, understanding that each decision is an opportunity to align with values and purpose. The accumulation of small intentional acts is more powerful than occasional bursts of effort because it builds identity and reinforces consistent behavior. The ultimate lesson is that control is not a privilege but a responsibility. It begins with personal accountability. The recognition that trajectory of your life is determined less by circumstances than by daily decisions. Control of the mind shapes perception and response. Control of the mouth shapes relationships, reputation, and influence. Control of money shapes opportunity and freedom. Together, they create the foundation for sustained growth, meaningful impact, and fulfillment. Mastery in these domains is the differentiator between a life of reactivity and limitation and a life of purpose, freedom, and intentional achievement. In conclusion, mastery over mind, mouth, and money is achievable, but it requires persistent attention, deliberate practice, and holistic integration. It demands awareness of internal patterns and external influences, the discipline to maintain constructive habits, and the courage to align actions with values even when inconvenient or uncomfortable. The journey is gradual, requiring patience, reflection, and continuous adjustment. It is the accumulation of small, intentional decisions repeated consistently that produces profound transformation. The disciplined mind creates clarity and focus. The controlled mouth fosters trust and influence. The managed money produces freedom and opportunity. Combined, these forces create a life characterized by intentionality, resilience, and sustained growth. Mastery is not a destination, but a lifelong practice. A commitment with purpose, alignment, and integrity. Those who embrace this path discover that the greatest power lies not in circumstance, but in self-governance, and that control of the mind, mouth, and money is the cornerstone of a life lived fully, intentionally, and without compromise. The path forward is clear. Cultivate awareness, design habits, manage resources wisely, and shape your environment intentionally. Commit to small, consistent actions that reinforce discipline, patience, and integrity. Surround yourself with people, spaces, and influences that elevate rather than detract. Embrace reflection, accountability, and continuous growth. Let every thought, word, and financial decision align with the person you aspire to become. In doing so, you will not only master your own life, but create the capacity to inspire, influence, and empower others. The control you cultivate today compounds into the freedom, opportunity, and impact of tomorrow. Mastery is attainable, sustainable, and transformative, and it begins with a conscious choice to govern your mind, your mouth, and your money. The journey is ongoing, but the principles are timeless. Discipline of thought, intentional speech, prudent financial management, consistent habits, and strategic environmental design are universal levers for growth. They apply in every context, challenge, and stage of life. They transform potential into action, aspiration into results, and intention into legacy. Those who commit to these principles experience life not as a series of reactive events, but as a coherent, aligned, and empowered trajectory. And the disciplined mind navigates complexity with clarity. The purposeful mouth communicates with precision and influence. The intentional use of money expands choice and opportunity. Together, these practices create a foundation for enduring success, resilience, and fulfillment. Mastery is not about perfection, external validation, or fleeting success. It is about alignment between thought, word, action, and resource management. It is about creating a life where decisions are guided by purpose rather than impulse, where communication is deliberate rather than reactive, and where financial behavior supports freedom rather than constraint. It is about living intentionally in every domain, recognizing the compounding impact of daily choices, and committing to a lifelong practice of growth. This integration of mind, mouth, and money is the cornerstone of sustainable achievement and the pathway to a life of authenticity, influence, and impact. Success, fulfillment, and freedom are not external gifts. They are the natural byproduct of consistent internal mastery. By controlling your mind, you shape your perception, focus, and emotional resilience. By controlling your mouth, you influence others, build trust, and communicate with purpose. By controlling your money, you create freedom, opportunity, and stability. Each domain reinforces the other, forming an ecosystem of discipline that compounds over time. The path to excellence is not accidental. It is intentional. Mastery is available to anyone willing to embrace the practices, discipline, and mindset necessary to govern themselves consistently. Those who choose this path discover that mastery transforms every aspect of life. Challenges become opportunities, obstacles become lessons, and setbacks become catalysts for growth. Control of the mind fosters mental clarity and resilience. Control of the mouth fosters authentic relationships and influence. Control of money fosters security, flexibility, and the ability to invest in the future. Mastery is holistic, integrating thought, speech, and resources into a coherent framework that supports sustainable success. It is the difference between living reactively and living intentionally, between merely surviving and truly thriving. By embracing mastery, you claim ownership over the trajectory of your life. You shift from being subject to circumstance to being the architect of your outcomes. You develop the ability to respond rather than react, to speak with intention rather than impulsively, and to manage resources wisely rather than haphazardly. Each day becomes an opportunity to reinforce discipline, build habits, and strengthen alignment across mind, mouth, and money. The compounding effect of consistent, intentional action transforms potential into reality, aspiration into achievement, and desire into fulfillment. Mastery is not a reward. It is a practice. It is built through vigilance, consistency, and deliberate choice. It requires awareness of patterns, courage to act intentionally, and commitment to long-term growth. The integration of disciplined thought, controlled speech, and financial prudence creates a life characterized by freedom, clarity, and purpose. Those who embrace these principles experience a compounding advantage over time, where habits reinforce identity, identity reinforces action, and action produces tangible results. Mastery is the framework through which excellence becomes inevitable, sustainable, and impactful. Ultimately, the controlled mind, mouth, and money empowers you to live deliberately rather than by default. It equips you to navigate complexity with confidence, communicate with influence, and utilize resources strategically. It transforms potential into capability, intention into action, and goals into reality. Mastery is not a singular achievement, but a continuous journey, a commitment to self-governance, intentionality, and integrity in every thought, word, and financial decision. By embracing this path, you create a life that is aligned, disciplined, and poised for sustained growth, impact, and fulfillment. Control your mind, guard your words, and manage your resources. Let your daily habits reflect your values. Let your environment reinforce your discipline, and let intentional action shape your future. This is the path to mastery, the framework for freedom, and the foundation for a life lived with purpose, integrity, and unstoppable momentum. It is a journey of self-mastery that compounds over time, producing results far greater than momentary effort. Through consistent practice, reflection, and alignment, you create the conditions for a life of clarity, influence, and abundant opportunity. Mastery over mind, mouth, and money is attainable, sustainable, and transformative. It is the cornerstone of personal freedom, effective leadership, and enduring success. By committing to the principles of disciplined thought, intentional speech, prudent financial management, habitual alignment, and environmental control, you cultivate a life where purpose drives action, integrity guides decisions, and opportunity multiplies. This mastery is not a destination. It is the ongoing practice that transforms potential into reality and intention into a life of impact, resilience, and fulfillment. The journey is continuous, but the rewards are compounding. Every choice you make to think deliberately, speak intentionally, and manage resources wisely strengthens your foundation. Every habit you reinforce, every environment you curate, and every decision you align with purpose builds momentum that carries you towards sustained achievement. Mastery of mind, mouth, and money is the key to unlocking your potential, creating freedom, and living a life of alignment, integrity, and enduring impact. It is the ultimate practice in intentional living, the silent engine behind consistent results, and the framework through which you realize your highest potential. By committing to mastery, you claim authority over your life. You transform challenges into opportunities, setbacks into lessons, and routine choices into catalysts for growth. Control over the mind ensures clarity and emotional resilience. Control over the mouth fosters authentic influence and meaningful connection. The disciplined mind sees clearly. The intentional mouth communicates effectively. The managed money enables choice. Habits and environment compound their impact over time. Consistent practice transforms potential into reality, chaos into order, and distraction into focus. Mastery is the intersection of self-discipline, intentionality, and alignment, producing a life of freedom, purpose, and sustained impact. By embracing this framework, you move from living reactively to living intentionally. You develop the capacity to act according to values, speak with purpose, and allocate resources with wisdom. Every day becomes an opportunity to reinforce discipline, strengthen habits, and deepen alignment across all domains. The cumulative effect of consistent, deliberate practice produces extraordinary results. Mastery of mind, mouth, and money is not only the foundation for personal achievement, but also the vehicle through which influence, opportunity, and legacy are realized.